Okay. That should be working okay. Yep. So yesterday I left this in what state? I didn't get to do much yesterday after stream. Pretty much started work and that was it. So I still need to go back and do the unit tests around that stuff. Let's have a look at why I didn't commit. Okay, so we're adding status into view. Scripts. Need to come up with a better name for that. Oh, okay. I've got two dogs lying underneath me. This is awesome. And we have a few tests to run. Remove unnecessary test. We'll it's probably not actually that bad. So we got the updating planning items. We added the status into the updating planning items, obviously, because we do that. But we also need to validate that test itself. So before I forget entirely, that's ticket tests. No, it was on the other side, wasn't it? It's the actual planning tests, planning items. What was it? I thought it was on the view side. View infrastructure. Which piece am I missing? View application test concerning integration. Concerning integration when updating projects there, or when updating planning items. So I have when user assigned, when user's identifier is null, when assigned user is the same. I'm not sure that one. I'm not sure that set of tests is as rich as they could be regarding updating the information, right? Now this is on integration update planning item. This has changed, etc., and I haven't accounted for any of that. So that's something I need to address. But I think that's a little bit too big for what we're doing here right this second. So how am I going to track that? New version of SkyDraw. Let's go update that plugin. Nice. Okay. That's so I can so we have this is all committed to it into its own Git repo, so I can track it. Okay. Oh, I need to remember to do things, don't I? I have responsibilities. Oh, that's a good point. I have no prompter. There we go. That was powered off. I swear I've done this before. I've streamed before. I seem to be forgetting how to do it. Hey Manoj, how you doing? How are things? No, I forgot. I was um I was in a I was watching a video on the new PS5 and I was writing a comment. It says upset with Sony. Okay. Why do you not? Pretty sure the stream's running. Yeah. One of them days. I'm just off screen. I'm just trying to get the tooling to work properly. Edit settings, create. It knows the title. No, it doesn't. It is what it is. People don't say hello on YouTube anyway. Sadly. Okay, let's do this. Let's pop that out. How I organize the stream. Let's put that to the right a second. Let's change that balance. There we go. Now I should see him. Okay. How's it going, Manoj? So, yeah, in the view side of things, the integration, there's a lot lacking there. So I need to not lose track of that. On the planning side of things, on this side, when no changes are made, when planning item is not found, when planning item is added, um, this probably needs deeper testing around when um, when a status changes, does it trigger the change? But again, if I was sat doing this on my own, I would do these. But I feel like unit testing is particularly bad for streaming because it's a lot of the repetition and me jumping around and piecing things together. And I think that is a little harder to watch. So I'm not going to focus on that right this second. It does mean there's a slight hole in the testing, but the relative difficulty of the application so far, I don't think I'm worried about. Okay, so include status in existing unit tests. I mean, generally, my measure there should be the fact that I've had to change other unit tests to accommodate a new field tells me that I'm missing some unit tests, right? That should be good enough. Okay, so this is the receiver. We're adding status in there. This is all the view side of things. We update the planning item. Tempted to break out the actual UI as a separate component. It is completely standalone. The UI it just uses the APIs. So a separate repository for the view would probably make a lot of sense at this point. For the client, sorry, because then I could actually build a client's repository and have different versions of the client in there. That's again, a lot of this comes from I've done this in past places, so I'm building the application in the same way. But this application has been a lot of asking the questions as to why I'm doing something in a certain way, why I can't do it a different way. Let's try and do it a different way, right? So I I I like breaking up that client away from the actual APIs so I can change that when I want to. It's working well for me, I think. Introduce status to view components. Include in planning API, integration event, receive. You keep track of items you need to do, focus on like task and GitHub or something, or you go with the flow. So I've been using, let's see if I can log in. Oh man. I've been using JetBrains Space to keep track of a lot of things, right? But that is held out. That's Control Tower. That's Mojo may be working on that. So I have been using this, but they are deprecating this in November. So I'm kind of in a flux of, do I want to do that? So what I have been doing recently in the last couple of days is kind of listing things I need to do. But in this case, these are items I need to go back and review. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out. So what I'm trying to do is get the application to the point where the application is doing this exact thing because it's what this is intended to do, right? Liquid Sky is meant to be a planning tool, and let's start this up. Let's see if this starts up okay. So the goal is to get at least the planning aspect of Liquid Sky to the point where it really is doing the things I need to do, so I can actually start using it to track the things I need to do in Liquid Sky. And then dog fooding that will allow me to understand where I'm missing things more. Things like unit tests that I'm not doing, that's a bad on me. That's bad of me. But again, from a streaming perspective, that's something I should wait until the weekend or something that I can do sat there on my own, because unit tests, writing new unit tests all the time, it gets a lot harder to follow. So we're starting up here. Got my Gran Turismo streams up on the screen. So if we go into Liquid Sky, sign in with a username that I never remember. I need to, again, there's so many things we do on a daily basis where we just avoid doing something is amazing. So for this week, what I've been focused on, I've been adding actual things in here. So this was an actual item that I wanted to work on. That's what I've been working on this week, right? So the status of planning items. Planning items do not need to live forever. They are a preparation tool. So I'm using Liquid Sky to start tracking the features of Liquid Sky, right? So this is what we've introduced this week, this in progress, this status, right? So the goal is that what we'll do is use these to generate stories. Those stories will get done. So from a tracking perspective, we're trying to move towards that point at a rapid pace at this point. But what I can't do is forget the fact that unit tests need to be written. So I do have unit tests around them. The structure's in place. It's just at time. So including so unless I get an overwhelming vote of let's do unit tests on stream, which again doesn't add context to people, then I'll do them off stream. Introduce status to view components, including PI integration, receiver, to pass, to update handler. What did I do here actually? Update PI service on client side to include status in GraphQL. Greens for yeah. I'm saying planning items so much that it's not even funny. So that takes us to this point, right? We now have a status. So what we did the other day is we went through and generated where do we generate the stories? Stories. No. Setting the status. We created this setting the status page to track the stories or describe the stories that I would do to get this feature in place. So what does this feature involve? So we've said when editing a planning item, I should be able to set the status. The default status of a newly created planning item should be preparing. The available statuses are preparing, ready for planning, in progress, and completed. So if we create a new item right now, this is need better unit test coverage. This wouldn't be a planning item that a PM would put in. This would actually be a technical debt item that would be added in the Scrum boards or the developer backlog. The unit tests around planning items are weak. They need more work. And we'll put a review date of let's put the 16th on there and assign to this user is Jeffrey. And it's on planning. So we create that. It goes in here because it's within the next 7 days. If we click on that, that's not loading yet. Gonna have to yeah, there you go. It started. Okay. Default is not. That would be because planning items. It goes in as preparing. This is one of the challenges of having a so it will be pulling that down. We can see that with banana cake pop. If we go to here, we get the planning item identifier. Go here, get planning item by ID. We make that there. Let me include status there. Access token, copy value. Right, so we can see the status comes down as preparing. So that is because that's way too big a search. In the planning item, we do that. So On the client, I'm using all lowercase. On the server, I've hard-coded it to a capital string. And don't forget, this is I've said this is a requirement, right? When editing a planning item, I should be able to set the status. The default status is that of a newly created planning item should be preparing. So I'm not even meeting that requirement right now because it's not showing as preparing. So obviously I can make that lowercase. That will fix the problem. I could do a too lower on the client. That would fix the problem. But both of those don't really address the actual issue in that I now have a disconnect. And if I change that, if someone changes that, the entire application doesn't work properly. Or if someone changes the client side, the entire application doesn't work properly. Now, and we kind of went through this discussion the last couple of days as to, right, I'm playing the role of the PM. I want this feature. I want to see it. There's a great benefit in getting the feature because this feature has taken 2 days, right? It's actually taken like 4.5 hours maybe to get to this point where it's actually a drop down and it's actually a status. If I change that, it will work. But that's not the point, right? So to be able to get this drop down in, to get it to select, to get it to be viewable, etc., that's taken about 4 hours worth of work. So it's half a day of time. So it's not a problem. Getting that status field on the screen was the priority because it's when you can see it, you can use it, and you can understand the difficulties or the how you might want to address it, and etc. So the goal of today is to get this in progress to show on this screen, which is easier said than done. Well, this one is actually kind of difficult, and this one is even more difficult. And actually, neither of them address just listing it on the screen. So I shied away from creating a core table of status. And the reason being, it overcomplicated it. It made it like future planning. Oh, what if you want to add another item? What if you want to do this? But it would have addressed this where there's an inconsistency, potentially. And I say potentially. This isn't good here because it's hidden down inside the actual, this is actually the data model slash aggregate that I still need to come up with a better pattern for. So right now, status in its entirety is a string that is driven off of this list, right? Essentially. So the client owns the list of statuses. It's probably a smell. Where could I put the statuses that would mean that I don't have to? So in doing this the way I've done it, I've got it on the screen, I've got it working, but then add a planning item should probably say, should have an explicit set default status or something to say that we are definitely defaulting that. The fact that it's hidden on the model is probably telling. like we do associate projects, we do create a planning item. Do we have update status? We do have update status. So we added update status. And it takes a string. But that will fire an event as well, which would be bad. Because we have planning item added already as an event. So that would conflict. Because we already have planning item created. So that would create another problem. You okay, bud? You out? Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so your ear bothering you, bud? Okay. Um, I got your ear all folded up. I'm debating how to do this other than create a table and then that has impacts everywhere. Because if I create a table, how do I select the default? Right? What does the default look like? Where do I get the default from? If I create a table, who maintains the table? Right now, there's no need for any other statuses. Right? So this is a weakness in the application. So basically, if I make that lowercase p, it fixes the problem. However, it doesn't solve the problem. It just defers the debt till later. If someone comes along here to this code, there's something missing, right? They don't know from add planning item that a default is ever set. They know from update planning item that we test the status, that we compare the status, and that we update the planning item and pass in the status, and everything goes there. Best is to put it in DB and have flag for default. Maybe you will have admin UI or something to adjust such configurations. That might be best if that's necessary, right? Again, that's a lot more work and a lot more effort if that table never gets updated, then there's only ever 4 items in it. Have I really done something good there? And again, who maintains the table? There's no admin UI for this, etc. right now. So as a PM, I want this flag. I don't want the extra week's worth of work that will come with making that maintainable for values that right now I have no idea if these aren't going to be sufficient forever. Hard coding the string, absolutely not the right thing to do. But what I'm trying to balance is moving forward with the project and moving forward with the concepts to put it in front of people versus delaying yet another week. Don't you be stealing things off there. Delaying yet another week while I add in yet more features, because I don't disagree that that's probably the best way of doing it. But I have gone through that that thought pattern. So what I need to do is future features, status API should be moved to table and have admin UI. So the problem with an admin UI, where do I put the admin UI? Who owns this as well? That's another challenge, by the way. Who owns, so projects, they're owned by the tenant. Users, they're owned by the tenant. Status for planning items isn't owned by the tenant. Status for planning items is owned by the system. What does it mean to have planning items? So the reason I'm not going straight to the table is because I need to understand how I'm going to use these before I actually decide that thing, right? How am I going to, because the status is going to have some sort of cost, some sort of impact on the system. That's why it's there. But I don't quite understand where that's going yet. So I'm trying to hold on to the agony a little bit in terms of I don't know what I don't know at this point. And not creating table structures, because again, if I create a table structure, one of the things I have to be careful of is other systems need that data. So it's not just a simple case of adding a table, because adding a table, who owns the table is the first question. Which component of the system owns the table? Then from there, when I change the table, how do I notify people? Do people need to integrate that data? So copies of that data need to exist. The view would need to pull that information through. So there's a lot more impact. And yeah, that's a side effect of this design. It's a side effect of making a more complicated system means that to do more complicated things takes more time. But in reality, if this system was being developed by multiple teams, it wouldn't take more time because each team would be given a piece of the work to do, and those pieces of work could be done in parallel and knocked out in the same amount of time, right? In that case, I suppose the Mythical Man month is so that being said, here's the well, but where would I put that? Right? Again, it's a who owns what when. Um, so right now, this is the list of options. Great. So let's say we move this out into a table or even a JSON. We now have to create an endpoint to receive it. We have to make that service call in here, right? it doesn't solve the problem on the planning side of things because now the view has that, right? So I have to copy that JSON into another thing. A shared library, I still have to copy that and still have to understand what default is. And every little piece there adds a little bit more complexity to the code, and that's complexity to remove later, and that increases fear because then people are more scared to change things. As it stands right now, it's a pretty simplistic implementation that can be removed and changed later, and that's what I'm kind of trying to keep to. The more complexity I add to solve a problem that I don't know exists yet, other than this one problem, right? This exists. The fact that I've got a hard-coded string is a problem. But it's a problem I can live with for the right second. That's kind of where I'm going. Is I know what I need to do, but I don't know when I need to be there. So yeah, but I really do appreciate this discussion. Right? This is a sort of thing that should happen. Let's go through the options. Let's discuss why we're not doing something. Understand the payoffs and the benefits to every approach. So yeah, if I put it in a JSON to make the list available, like make it a resource list or something, right? That's an option. But then I'm going to write code to pull from that resource list, and then it's like, well, we need to add a new planning item, status type. Okay, someone just goes and adds a line in there. It doesn't give them that need to implement it properly in the system. What have you been doing with your ear, bud? Your sister been cleaning your ear for you again. So yeah, so for right now, I'm going to do something that will probably hurt a little bit. That will solve my problem temporarily. We'll keep track of this piece of work. This is technical debt. This technical debt is triggered when they want to change a status. Because right now, that code could live in place forever. Right? Doing that, as long as no status changes, that code lives forever. But this makes it very difficult, other than if the default changes. Right? If they change the labels, the system breaks. If they change the names on things, the system breaks. So, and they being me in the future, I suppose. So that's not a solid solution, but it is a workable solution for now to move things forward and not over engineer what I don't know I need yet. Sorry, ads. Apologies. So let's start that up. Let's go in. So I actually put a default on the table as well. But Manoj, I appreciate the conversation because it is something that one of the things I'm trying to focus on. And I don't know if you're behind ads. I remember. I'll wait until the ads finish before I continue that thought. Let's go and change the script. I'm thinking about that. This default won't take effect. I don't believe, if I don't set that. So we'll test that afterwards, actually, because if the default takes effect in the SQL, then I can remove this and the SQL will take over. I'm not sure if .NET overrides defaults. It might try and put a blank string in there. In which case we've got to hard code the default anyway. Okay, so we need to go and change this one right now. Oh no. Case sensitivity. Okay, so firstly, apologies for ads. I didn't see they were running. Ads run every 40 minutes for 2 minutes to try and keep the time between ads further apart. Update. See if this works. This might not work. I'm just update planning items set status equal to status replace preparing with preparing. Oh, that's just saying. Yeah, I don't need to do that, do I? Do I? Let's see. Unsafe update statement without where status collate Latin 1. There we go. Okay, that worked. SQL Server by default is case insensitive, which means if you just try and change the same word, it just ignores you. So that was just making sure I can do that. So one of the things that I'm trying to do with this tool, with this project, is I'm trying to get those sorts of questions, these sorts of things figured out before it becomes a story. Oftentimes, product management adds in stories. We get up against time and we develop based upon the stories that are put there. We don't ask questions. We don't stop and pause on things like this that you're helping me through, Manoj, right? Just by having this conversation, it could be here. It could be here. Why don't we do this? Understanding why we're not making changes. To me, or to anybody watching, what I just did might be a sacrifice that you're not willing to make. You would have gone and created a table. You would have gone and created the API, etc. But that adds yet more code, and that code is not fixing the problem. It's just deferring the problem later, but it's adding more code. The more code people add, the more scared they are of making changes, and the more likely that code gets left in place and maintained or fixed in the future, and it starts to become something it wasn't intended to be. So what I'm trying to do is make it so that the impact on the system is very minimal. I get this feature in place as I explore. The moment I need something more from this, the moment I need some behavior, the likelihood is the current structure won't support it, and I'll have no choice but to engineer a better solution, in which case I can address solving not only the original problems, but the new problem. And that's what I'm aiming for. Waiting to trigger the technical debt at the right time, as is useful for the system, not just useful for me now. And I'm not trying to over-engineer something that might solve a problem that I might come up against later on. So these planning items, these requirements that are built out, the idea is that the PMs can sit down and go and document out, here's what I want to do for this. Here's my dream list. Here's what I'm thinking of. They don't have to go into the technicals. They just have to describe the things they want to see as clearly as they can. And from there, the developers can create stories. So this one requirement actually triggered three or four stories, 3.5 stories, because this kind of merged into this anyway. But it created 3 essential stories. And that's just one requirement, right? So now we should be able to go back to need better test coverage. That shouldn't do that. Oh, you know why that is? Because there's a view, and that view contains planning items, and that planning item contains pairing, which is going to do the same thing. Are you going to save that way? Oh, flipping between a Mac and a Windows system on the same keyboard. I keep command doing things and wondering why things aren't working. Need better unit test. There we go, preparing. So if we create a new item, planning items. Now, again, this thing here would not be in the planning system. This is a technical requirement that the developers have. This is a backlog item that can be discussed, can be planned, and can be prepared independently. Should be maintainable. If planning items expands use, then there will be a need for it to be more maintainable. Now it's hard coded. I think I'm about to spell at this point. Right now it's hard coded. We're gonna move that out there. We're not gonna assign it to anyone. Let's create that. So yeah, again, we are moving forward. So again, that might not be an ideal solution, but it solves the problem. It moves me forward. To the PM, they don't care based upon what this is doing. Because again, if you ask a PM, hey, do you want this? Well, if it's more features to the system, then yeah, they're going to want it. But what I'm saying is, right now, there's no need for us to expand the stats. There's no need for us to change that in any single way, shape, or form. So why do that right this second? Why not wait until that comes around? And again, keep making the system maintainable. Keep making the system easy to change, and that won't be a problem later. So let's stop running there. Let's default planning item value to preparing. Lowercase match correctly. Client. Commit and push. So I'm just being pragmatic, right? Realistically, that's going to change, but I haven't done a lot of code that I need to pull out. Okay, so with that done, let's talk about these next requirements. So essentially, we've done this. We have done this. And we have done this. We have got the integration working. That integrates fine. If we go and click on this one, That should be loaded. Oh, no, it's not loaded because it just stopped running, but yes. So we've done those 4 stories. So let's talk about these ones. So items that are completed should not be displayed in the default planning item list. I should be able to filter to select to see the completed items. So this is a sort of thing where that seems really easy because it's only 2 sentences. There's actually 2 requirements there, right? There's 2 things. Completed items should not show in this list, right? Now, that gives us a problem because if we mark something as completed, it disappears. We never see it again, right? So then, okay, I should be able to filter to select the see completed items. Oh, we don't have filtering on this yet. None of that exists. So, first requirement, nice and easy. Exclude anything that's not completed by default. But then that immediately changes the moment you do this because you've got to say, okay, what are my default filters and what is the filter? Well, how do I provide this? So we need to develop an entire piece for filtering. So there's stories that come off this. Could be separate, could be one and the same. One's going to impact the other regardless. But there are 2 requirements essentially that need to be expanded upon, right? And again, this is why having a conversation, using this as a driving component of the conversation and not making it an actual requirement, because there's a lot open for interpretation here, right? In reality, what we should be saying, it's kind of my phrase in reality. I need to move away from that. What we should be doing is saying, okay, well, where's the mock-ups? Right? I want to see, what do you want the filtering to look like? Do we want to filter on anything else? Do you see that expanding? So to that, again, that point of, they're going to say yes. In all likelihood, they're going to say, oh, yeah, I want to be able to filter by review date, who created by, assigned to, just be able to filter by all those things. But this becomes a massive story now, right? We got this done in half a day, 2 days, whatever. Let's say 2 days. But this is way more involved. And this is why I'm trying to build this, because this is nice to have all together, but this actually generates stories. So let's just review the next requirement. The list of planning items should indicate the current status of the planning item. I should be able to group by status, then review date. It's the same thing again. And this is me writing this. Right? If I'm writing this, so again, that is essentially 2 requirements, right? Because I can achieve this one in a relatively quick amount of time. I can slap a column in. But I should be able to group by status, then by review date window. Well, that's a whole different challenge, right? Because now what we're saying there is we want to say, okay, completed, past due, current, which doesn't make sense there. So what value does that hold? Realistically, all you want to do is group by you want to see in progress or whatever. So is filtering not going to solve this problem for you? Right? Because there's no view of this that makes sense. So again, what we'd say there is there's actually no story there. The grouping doesn't actually give value because, or grouping by the status doesn't actually give value because then you might as well just use the filtering and keep the grouping here. Because the filtering has more power. Because because double nested groups aren't going to really do very much for you. Because if you group by the window first, then by the status, well, only ready for planning. I mean, these three technically fall under that. Completed makes no sense to be grouped by anything, right? So I'm going to say we don't need to do that one now. So, hey, 90% of what product once had no value. Does not mean we can skip it. Hey, MQB, how you doing? Hey, Delta, how you doing? Good morning. You been to the gym? Oh, no. If that was to me, yeah, I did go. Nice. It wasn't, it was to Delta, but I'm glad you went as well. I lost my lock and I only had one, so I went and bought 3 lots instead. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of looking at these extra requirements. So Manu's just helped me talk through some of the stuff that we've been going through with the planning. We realized it was a hard-coded default that is kind of risky, and that I'm going to keep track of that as a technical debt item for later, right? Because the planning items don't really um, they work. The status works in general. He says it's not currently set on this one, right? Um, oh yeah, that's because I'm loading it. Um, but yeah, um, so we went through this, and now we're talking about this visibility and the fact that this needs more discussion, and why I'm doing this particular feature. Um, items that completed should not be displayed in the default planning item list. Great. That's one requirement. It's nice and easy to do. Just remove all complete items from the query. I should be able to filter to select to see the complete items. Well, we don't have filtering. So in reality, what you would do, and in reality, this is reality. But if I had available UI UX resources, I would say, hey, we need a mock-up on what you want the filtering to look like. In terms of planning items, you're probably trying to organize what you're promising to customers. So that comes down to when we talked about this, that comes down to we have status, but tagging prioritization capacity planning, right? So that's a value attached to these things, right? The fact that they're in progress and or in ready for planning doesn't mean that's not the value thing. So we'll add a priority status later on, and you hope that doesn't get abused. I saw someone go and say, "Oh well, they're putting priority on these things." Yesterday on a list of like 150 items, and they're all high priority. So in a world of high priority, what takes precedence? Oldest first. So you got to try and get some honesty out there. So yeah, so we'll have to get into the whole how do we measure Jira solves this by JQL. You can query it, but you can't. Um, are you talking being able to provide filtering on whatever you want to filter on? So yeah, filtering. Again, we need yeah, yeah, yeah. You can write simple simple strings to combine things and filter down. Yeah. But I don't think we're there yet. um, I think I've got a long way to go before I get to more dynamic filtering like that. I suppose. I mean, I would imagine that depends upon the market. Um, depending on the industry you're working in, how that works. Now, listening to your customers, very important. You want to build a product that they want and that they use, and that makes, like, for this, the entire goal is to make it the flow of information, the flow of requirements and uh, the gathering of requirements more transparent. To me, that's where we fail. The transparency of understanding, what are we actually doing? What is work we know about? What is work we need to know about? And where are we with that work? Right? So that a developer doesn't have to stress about that. They can say, I need to do this because it's actually in the backlog. We've agreed this work needs to be done. Now, if developers don't ask the questions, then that's on them. But this is intended to help planning not have to worry about where technical requirements sit. They just, here's what I want to see. Here's what I'm expecting to do. This helps make more transparent, make it more transparent to the business. If 15 stories get produced off this, the business just cares that this is what's actually being worked upon. So the progress and stuff on these will show on these and not on, you don't have to go into the boards themselves. So yeah, let's tackle something we can easily tackle before the end of the stream, which I think is, so the list of planning items should indicate the current status of the planning item. I should be able to group by status, then by review date. So we're going to say that this isn't required, right? This is something that we taught through, and unless anyone can actually give me a good reason. Dota, have a great day at work. Thank you for stopping by. Um, I would love to know if anyone can actually. Now I've written it down. Grouping these by the status, or subgrouping by status and then these, is there much value in that? It's, to me, that's going to add noise to the screen. It's not going to add any readability or value. Whereas you might as well just use the focus on the filtering and get the ability to say, okay, I want to show all completed items. I mean, completed items. Completed items we haven't figured out fully yet, because a completed item, we've said that, and I've said that, where did I say it? Where did I capture that? Uh, yeah, I think filtering down to say completed has more value than this. I don't think this is actually a useful requirement. But again, it's the conversation, right? That's what matters, like understanding what we're trying to aim for. Um, so I just kind of paused on that because Once an item's, if an item's preparing or it's ready for planning, right? That means it's sat here. It is in the planning items. Its review date matters. We can keep checking on that. That makes a difference. Once it's in progress, that means the stories are being worked upon. Right. The review date, and as I said, the review date on this should be and I can't remember where I noted it down now because that's a bad sign. The review date on here now becomes calculated as being the lowest of the items that are assigned to it, which we can't possibly do right now because we don't have that component. And then completed, review date holds no value. So completed will never fit in a window because completed will only ever be yeah. We're gonna see more challenges come around from that design. But I can't think about it right this second. So let's get that column in there. Let's run the application again because we know we have everything running. And then we'll complete this little piece and then we'll move to filtering. Now, if I was smart, I added the attributes for filtering on the GraphQL component. Need to break these out as well. I wasn't smart. Comments, use filtering, use sorting. So this hooks up directly to a read-only DB context. That allows it to, again, use projection. So if I don't ask for a property that is in a nested adjoin table, it won't pull that through. So it does write the more efficient SQL. Does mean the caching is a challenge if you're constantly changing it, because the same query isn't getting fired. So you're I believe there's some cost there on um, a SQL Server. Okay, so that's up and running. So let's go here. Okay. So we have status of planning items. I should indicate the current status of the planning item. So on here, we should be able to see where it lies. So let's go and look at that side of things. So we have components, we have views, planning items, components, planning item detail, planning item table. So we have this wonderful table with these columns. Do th scope equals col style equals stats with 20%. Okay, so now we're going to fit this in somewhere. Title. I'm going to say we don't need created by right this second, but let's do this. Let's make it. Where did I put that? Title, review date, status. Just writing this code, I know that this is going to demonstrate another problem. And it's going to come right back around on the conversation we've had, which is not going to help my cause, by the way, because we're going to get into the Yagni. Look, I knew what it was all along. Oh, 63 now. You don't like that, do you? Oh, 6. It's looking neater. Everything's getting pushed over. That's funny. These got small. That's hilarious. I don't think projects is necessarily useful there. Let's remove projects for now. Set that back down to 5. Back down to 5. That looks a little neater. So if you've been paying attention, you should already see the problem. Now it's solvable again relatively simply on the client, but I've got to ask how many times I'm going to do it. How many times I'm going to do. How many times am I going to do this? Also, now the projects are missing. It looks kind of meh. Initially, I had the projects there though, so that's probably useful as well to show the projects that it's associated with up there. I know they're there, but labeling them up there is probably useful. Starts at planning items. Changes to planning items. Make more progress. Ads are about to start. Again, the 2-minute ads, but they remove the pre-rolls for 40 minutes. So if you get stuck behind the ads, I do apologize. Yeah. Still trying to find that balance. So, two things. Obviously, with projects missing, this is a little cleaner. This screen is definitely cleaner. I do think that those chips do belong I think again with the Mac shortcuts, driving me crazy. Let's close that. Let's close that. I think they can go maximize title. I think they can kind of go up here. Look like audit item rather than planning item. Yeah, I probably want to make that separate. um, justify that. There you go. Okay, I like that. PL5. Oh, that's useful. But that's the minor thing. I'm deferring. I'm putting things off again. The actual challenge is one of lookups. Wait for the ads. And I'll be right back. I'll wait for the ads to finish, but I'll be right back. Okay, I apologize for that. Again, appreciate the ads. Okay, so we have the issue of the lookup still. All I've done again is deferred that to now. This becomes a problem, right? Because I now have a. It's not unreadable, but it is a name here. So what I could do is meet in the middle, provide a lookup, right, that is driven off of the view side of things, but ultimately still stores the string. So it kind of it does work, but stops me from hard coding a solution into the client. Because again, now this gets again messy because now I'm gonna have to decide, oh well, and I can solve it still. I've got options for solving it, but I'm kind of like, I don't necessarily want to do it this way now. So, hello, dog. You okay? Hello, buddy. You lie down? Yeah. Good boy. Oh boy. I can move this out to some object within here, maybe. That would be the smoothest way of keeping this behavior intact while still maintaining that ability. But am I just pushing that challenge away and away and away? I guess right now I don't want to get stuck in this world of status mess because they think it's more important to try and get those other features in to try and get to the point where I can actually use this application. And doing that diverts me for a day or two more before I even get to that. By the way, that JavaScript not minding whether you have semicolons or not. um, shared. Why did I do that? Actually, I created. I think I did this. Yeah, going to follow that pattern. We're going to have status model ts export interface status model. Do that. Do new status data store ts. So again, this is just basically exporting that list from there. So we pull that from here, right? Ugh. How do we do that one? Export const countries. Yeah. Export const. Statuses as status. Did I really call that country? Yeah, I did. Thank you for the looks, Lily. Appreciate it. You're safe. You're safe. Come on, bud. Come lie down. Status is. So then I use this store in here. Yeah. Can't leave that alone while I'm here. Okay, so I just do it that way. Okay, so then that makes that easier. Because then we can do so read only options. Import then. There you go. Equals statuses. So the applications should still function, right? So again, the reason I'm deferring this, the reason I'm putting this challenge off and making potentially worse designs on the client side for this is because I really don't understand fully how I want to use this status thing, how much I'm going to build around it. And with every change I make, obviously that gets a little harder to put off. But again, I don't think that moving this to a table and adding all the work around making that maintainable is actually going to buy me very much right now. Because again, I don't have the UI to maintain that. It's not something that would want to be maintained by a user. And I still feel that there's going to be some level of hard coding there because the the things the system requires from that item is going to potentially be hard coded against the item itself. So having it as a dynamic table doesn't solve my problems there. So we need to do new pipe to status prettify status. Skip tests because client tests are not something I have any clue how to write right this second. That's a whole different level of challenge for me. Pipes. So private statuses equals statuses. And then we want to do transform string returns string. Let status equals, yeah, that'll do. Yeah, that'll do. So then in our planning item table, when we do status, we just do verify status. And then we go. There's our actual readable name. So if you're new to the stream, if you are just joining, um, this application I've been working on for a long time. So if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, if you believe you would have gone a different direction, if you believe that I'm hacking something where you would not do that, I want to have those discussions. I'm open to having conversations about these things. Because I feel that a lot of software development, when done in a vacuum, I'm validating my own decisions. I'm validating my own laziness in places because I just don't want to solve a harder problem. In this instance, I'm just doing it because I do genuinely believe that the more work I do to kind of make this dynamic, the more I complicate the overall system for the benefit of something I don't fully under. I know that I need this status. The status matters. But how I'm going to use it, how I'm going to react to it, how I'm going to trigger things in response to it, I don't fully understand them yet because the system's already to the point where it's a little bigger than my brain can fit in at any one time. So this solves this problem temporarily again. Um, yeah. Okay. So that moves us forward. We've got the status on there now. We've moved the labels for the projects to the top of the planning items so we can see them clearly. Manoj, it doesn't allow you to give a link or something that it thinks is a link. So that to me, those just look like stars. If you whisper me, um, you can send me that link and I can open it. You'll wake up. No, you didn't. I think I started the stream before creating the event, so that's why the chat thing didn't work today for me. Yeah. Gotcha. Fake JSON API. Create your own. This editor below us. Create a fake JSON API with your own fake data. Ah. One of the benefits I imagine Twitch gives you giving you a pair programmer, someone to challenge your assumptions by asking dumb questions. At least that's one of the reasons I wanted to stream. But I only had my work laptop at the time, and the 35 to 40-second lag made any conversations untenable, so I didn't do it. And I found some more competent streamers online to watch, so I never got into it. Yeah, I think the thing I like about Twitch, like I'm not looking for someone to give me ideas. I'm not looking for someone to validate validate me, right? I'm not looking, you know, um, like you said, it gives you that pair programmer. Um, if you build up um code by mistakes, right? That's a perfect name. Um, I haven't used this by the way, Manoj. That's quite interesting. Building an API that way. Um, yeah, it makes a lot of sense actually. I mean, a little expensive. Yeah, that's cool. Put it in there. So yeah, what you're saying is I could do that. Um, Oh yeah, it's gonna be well, that won't just provide that, will it? It needs to be an object itself. So it needs to be that options. It needs to be everything there without the type. Yeah, what am I doing wrong there? I got distracted. Status. Oh, it wants the quotes and stuff. Yeah, it wants the quotes and stuff. Okay, I'll play around with that afterwards. But yeah, thank you. That's not a bad idea. I do appreciate that one. Um, Twitch streaming is like rubber duck debugging. It can be. I think I suffer. I've complained before that I don't. The people that generally join my stream don't try and express opinions. Now that might be because maybe I seem a little bit too confident at times, or I'm working on stuff that just cannot, you can't engage with. Again, a lot of my stream is not about, I don't play music. I don't put any entertaining sound effects in there. I don't do anything like that. I don't do anything other than just develop. Um, so maybe it's just the people that join me like co-working. Online, yeah, or are working at the same time. So I think that's the group that but yeah, having a group of people that are comfortable to say, yeah, I think you're doing that wrong, or why aren't you doing it this way, or I've done it this way before, why aren't you doing it that way? And that's what I think development benefits from. Development does not benefit from being done in a vacuum. Um, because again, you kind of validate poor decision after poor decision, and then you end up with a mess. So the only thing the API thing, by the way, the only thing that would hold me back from that one particularly would be that then I have a dependency upon an external data source. And but it does move it away from my um, it does move it away from my code to that point. It does isolate that. I have no problem with asking you about why you're doing something a certain way. I'm just that I'm working when you're streaming. Yeah, most people. Yeah, I think I align with the people that join the stream are working. It's probably why I get more conversation out of Dota from 7 to 8 because he's getting ready for work, and then yeah, yeah. So I'm just noise to you. I'm gonna save this. This is not a bad idea. I like this idea. Thank you. Yeah, and I think the bigger this project gets, the harder it is to even get understand what I'm doing because there's so many moving parts. Um, yeah. Thank you for not having music. I don't put music on because I don't like listening to music anymore. Oh, dog be laying down. There you go, dog. I'll move my legs for you. Sorry. Um, and I've already been stung enough times by free music. I'm not messing around with it. Um, I had a load of on my older streams. I actually had intro music that was labeled as free for use. The licensing was all good. They changed the licensing, and all my old VODs got flagged, and I had to delete a lot of the old VODs on YouTube as well. Some of them I edited them. I used YouTube to edit the components that were It's not like the entire 2 hour stream was. I don't listen to music recording anymore unless I'm really stressing about something like a deadline, then I have to have certain songs that I revert to. Yeah. So it was intro music and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I'll just edit out the intro using YouTube's lovely video editing tools to keep the video up there. But was a pain. Okay. So obviously I'm not going to get to filtering today, but let's have a look and see. PS5. Sony upsetting my console collecting. Um, bright screen, dark screen. So this component is a P table. They do support some level of filtering here. However, what I'm going to need to do is line up the filtering with GraphQL. Because if I'm going to do it properly, I'm going to want to use the database to do the filtering, not let the client do it, right? Because over time, this is going to be quite a big list if I load everything in all the time and then let the client filter. So if I've completed thousands of items, I don't want them loading into the page to then get removed by the tooling. Really, Prime? Because that's what you want. Ready to copy paste. Look, it's just this. To me, that's like the worst nightmare for a PM to see. But it's just copy paste. You just copy and paste the component and it'll be fine. I don't like that becomes a joke either. Hey, Hexic, how you doing? Come back from A&E. Oh no, I hope you're okay. Oh, dislocate your finger. Oh, that tickles. I was gonna just put it back into place myself. So the last time I got the pleasure of going to A&E was I was 18, a few years ago now. Um, and I had punched a thing and hurt my hand, and I showed my mum, who had been a nurse, and said, "Yeah, you've broken your hand. It's a finger. They're not going to do anything." I'd broken the actual bone and the knuckle bone. And she's like, they're just gonna wrap it because there's nothing they can do. You can go see the doctor next week and just have them check it out and make sure there's nothing more serious. But you're going to go and sit in A&E for hours. And I was adamant that I need to go to the hospital. So we go on the bus and go down to A&E. And I then spend 5 hours waiting for them to see my hand and go, yeah, we're just going to wrap it, go see a doctor next week. uh, so that was, she just, I told you so. But still had to wait 5 hours for my hand to be wrapped. Oh yeah, she loved doing that. She's like, I told you so. Oh dear. So I'm clicking around, kind of thinking at the same time about the filtering here. Yeah, well, I hope they got the finger reset okay, and the pain is lessened. Dislocating stuff is not fun. Yeah. Oh. Um. Well, that seems sufficiently dangerous enough that you could have ended up getting priority access. Ouch. Oh. I'm glad you had the excruciatingly long wait and didn't get in there quicker through a bike accident. So the way to do this, let's stop this running. The way to do this is to, on the view, we go here. What we want to do is use filtering. We're going to put use sorting on there as well. I've got a feeling that's going to be that. That's breaking my own rule of that's going to come around. Oh, my prompter seems to have given up on relaying text, apparently. Yeah, it's now decided that I'm totally disconnected. I just got it wasn't touched again, nothing will be comparable to that because I can't get it anymore. Ugh. Why is it's just blocking. Don't worry. I hurt myself anyways, but that's something else. There we go. No worries. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna test this before we finish up. We're gonna test this. So what I've got to figure out, and this is actually a common, this is a problem I've come up against a few times, right? Where yes, the filtering on here is going to work nicely, but it's going to filter the data that it has available. It's not going to. I'm going to have to come up with something that either hooks into that. So if I want to put in filtering against status, I don't want to drop box down here that gives me the statuses to filter from, do I? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. What I was thinking more is a bar at the top to allow me to do the filtering. But then can I hook into the components of this? So even if I put them here, can I say, okay, well, this is actually what you're going to do when you do this? Because ultimately, this is just going to filter out the data it has. It's not going to provide any sort of server filtering. If this is just to exclude completed tasks, then maybe it makes more sense to add a checkbox with include exclude completed. So you're part QI part for now. Well, there's two aspects, right? There's the the visibility of planning items. I don't want to show completed by default, and this one I want to be able to indicate conflicting requirements. You are not wrong in that. So maybe a box to show a checkbox just to say include exclude completed. It's not a bad idea. And then defer filtering and defer, because again, the UI matters there. So if we just put a show completed up at the top, that's not a bad idea. My dream is to find a UI UX expert that will help work on this and give me some good designs to work off of without charging me a ton of money. Because again, this is not a product, right? This is not making money. So I cannot afford to spend thousands of pounds or thousands of dollars. I don't know why I just went back to pounds on hiring someone to do it. Yeah, you might not be wrong there. But anyway, that wasn't. I mean, I'll defer that till tomorrow anyway. So what I was going to do there is, so if we run this query, wishful thinking, dementia. Yes. Okay, so we can do this now, but we should be able to do something like where do I do it? Okay, comments for planning item. Duplicate. Close all, don't save, don't save, don't save. There you go, it was duplicating, okay. Save as planning items with filters. Liquid sky. So I believe we can do this where how do I do filtering? Get the schema first. Yeah, where status not equal completed. Right. Hi Sally, how you doing? This is banana cake pop. This is basically the GraphQL Chili Cream, who develop Hot Chocolate, which is the API library I'm using for GraphQL on the .NET side. provide this tool for writing your GraphQL queries. You can also go to, and I have left it in, when you install Hot Chocolate, you don't need to install Banana Cake Pop separately. It actually does come embedded. So you can actually go to, and you've got to remember to turn it off, by the way. That's actually a good security thing. By default, it provides, you can just go to /GraphQL and it will provide Banana Cake Pop for you in the browser. If I remember what API that's running under. Debug. Yeah, GraphQL. So if I go to this URL, no. I believe, yeah. So if I go to this URL, Banana Cake Pop's built in. Yeah, I don't want that. I mean, you still have to be, you actually have to, to even use the API. It's not like it gives you the schema. I still have to sign in and get it. But it is something you should control. And I don't think that's something you want enabled, potentially in prod. But I do have to have a valid user still to query it because all the API endpoints are protected. So yeah, equals in progress. So there we go. Status, title. Let's remove attachments. There you go. So to Manoj's point, the simple thing here, and if I look at the requirements I have right this second, realistically, all I care about is not showing completed in here, but not losing them. Right. So I've said I should be able to filter to see the complete items. Now, what's probably going to happen is if, you know, if I'm the PM and they say, okay, well, we're just going to put a checkbox in for now to show hide completed. We go, well, what if I only want to see ready for planning? What if I want to do this? Well, let's have the requirements. Let's have that conversation. And that's what it's all about, right? This is intended to make sure those conversations are happening before this becomes actual work, to get the developers to think about what they're actually trying to develop and create the stories necessary to do that. So, yeah. Oh, ads. I'll wait for them to finish. Okay, ads are finished. My apologies. Okay, so I think tomorrow the first thing we'll do is get the checkbox in there, get that hooked up. It's going to be a little bit more involved than just adding a checkbox because it's going to have to go to the store. We're going to have to say, yes, here's what we actually want to filter on. Now, because we've created that lookup, the status data store here, there's at least one place to use it in the API in the client side. So we can just say we can use these things. We can just, complete it. We don't have to necessarily hard code anymore than we need to. But that is going to allow us to filter that out and yeah. Then we don't have to worry about messing with the UI. We don't have to worrying about filtering over the overall table. That can come later. because yeah, my goal, here's what I want to do. I want to make this to the point where it's a usable application from a planning perspective, that I'm comfortable that like editing these things, adding requirements, adding attachments. We've got comments working, we've got the changes working, build out these things potentially. Hold on. Oh, that actually does, yeah, stats. So the changes display has the templating, which has the field translations to the display components. So that's just using a general string display right now. So maybe I want to, that seems harsh. But yeah. Sorry, that's a distraction again. So yeah, I want to get to the point where you can add an attachment to a planning to a requirement. The requirement is easy to display, easy to because and if we look at changes to planning items, this is one long chunk of text, but actually that is something I laid out. So look at getting a markdown editor in there, getting that display working properly. Once that's working, what I want to do is figure out deployment of this system to a test system and then provide limited access to you guys, to your own tenants, and ask that if you log in and you want to test it, you want to tinker with it, you want to, you know, use it, that you can go ahead and do that. And if you have any feedback or challenges or whatever, um, then you have the option of joining in. I'm not going to put that behind any weird requirements right now. Just I'm going to get that set up. So that's the goal. So once this is working to that point, I'm going to create a version of it running that is I can use for future planning, and then we can start adding the story components. But in the meantime, while refining the planning components and seeing that they work exactly as intended. Now, the challenge I have is that obviously most of the people coming into the stream are development focused. You're in the same boat I am. You're not product management, unless you are and you're keeping it quiet. You are developer focused, so you're not the actual intended audience for this component, but providing the ability for people to tinker with this and get their hands on it and see how they feel it works and come up with those challenges is something that I think is a useful piece of feedback, and then move forward. So that's the goal. So coming up in the next couple of weeks, I would imagine, at the rate we're going, that would be the goal. So allowing you guys to log in and play with it. Good morning, Napalm. I need to use my shout outs correctly. I need to shout out people soon in the stream. Oh, someone I haven't actually shouted out yet. Hexic has started streaming very regularly, doing game stuff, C++ stuff, like the smart programming things. I would highly recommend checking out Hexic. And again, a good chill place to be. You got affiliate. Congratulations. That's awesome, Hexic. Well done. You now can run ads to make more money for Twitch. But congratulations. So yeah, check out Hexic. But that's it for me. I was trying to find anyone else to raid into. I'm trying to find developers, but I'm also mindful of just raiding the same people, and I'm also mindful of raiding into people that are making a lot of noise compared to what I'm doing. Nookmind. Nookmind's normally in my list, right? This is something you said. No, unfortunately, you just joined right at 9 o'clock when I am finishing up. Why don't? Okay. I don't raid into. Again, I'd like to raid into app developers. I'd like to raid into if there's .NET developers. I'd like to raid into them, but there's not many that are live at the same time. I am like keeping on task because I think it's good to raid into other programming streams in general. But my problem is that if you're watching me and then I just drop you in game dev, then those numbers fall away quick, and the raid is not really giving that other person a chance to get there. So if you guys know of, like, if you're thinking of starting to stream and you want to do .NET dev and things like that, and you're going to stream at this time, start streaming. I will raid you often, because your stream is in line with what we're doing and what we're carrying on. Yeah, I'll take you guys over to Nerdmind today. I haven't raided. I haven't I followed Nerdmind, but I'm not following Nerdmind right now. So let's fix that first. Was that a hint? Surely, if you can stream at this time, do it. um, I have thought about it, but won't be streaming this early. Got to pay the bills. Yeah, I get it. It just seems like there's a hole right here for like application development. People do come in. People are clearly interested, but yeah. So let's go raid No Mind. Someone different. Otherwise, it's full bots again because that's the only streamer in my list that I like going hanging out with after stream. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll put the filtering in this. We'll stick a pin in this component for right this second. We'll move on to other things. I will be back tomorrow to do more. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming hanging out. Take care. Have a great rest of the day. I'll see you soon. Bye all.